If you're a B2B business owner, there's a good chance you've said some version of it. We can't figure out how to set ourselves apart, or we sound like everyone else, or the market is just oversaturated. You're struggling to clearly explain what you do and why people should choose you, and it's just bleeding into every single asset that you have. Here's the thing, it's almost never a messaging problem. Messaging is the translation of your position. So when you figure out the unique value that you provide, the thing that actually sets you apart, then you put it into words. But you have to figure out that unique thing first. Words are the last step, not the first. So one of the first questions I ask on a discovery call is this: tell me about the competitor research you've done. And I usually get one of four answers. First one is, we don't have any competitors. Or, we don't need to do competitor research. We don't want to copy anyone. We want to forge our own path. We already know what sets us apart. We don't need to spend time on all of that. And then lastly, and I hear this often, we've already done thorough competitor research. Look, those four things are in direct conflict. Well, at least the first three are in direct conflict of what you just said. If you want to stand it out and set yourself apart, then you have to actually know what you're up against. You can't defend a position that you haven't actually researched or mapped out. So let's go ahead and debunk all four of them. All right, first one, I hate to break it to you, but if you don't have any competitors, there's a chance you don't actually have a viable offer either. It would be absolutely amazing if we were the only solution for the problem we solve, but I've never worked with a business where that's been the case. There are always other options that your buyers have. And people are rarely evaluating you in isolation. They're comparing you to alternatives, whether or not you acknowledge that those alternatives exist. Oftentimes, those options are things you've never even thought of. Okay, as for not wanting to copy or already knowing what sets you apart, here's the question that I always ask: how do you know what sets you apart if you've never done the research to look at what others are offering and how they're messaging around it? Doing competitor research has absolutely nothing to do with copying your competitors. It's actually the exact opposite. You have to know what other people are saying, or you have no idea if you're actually forging your own path. People think they are because they've thought through these ideas internally. But I can't tell you how many times I've talked to business owners who tell me that. And then when I ask them to share the thing that sets them apart, the reason why people should choose them, and then I do a quick scan of their competitors, well, it turns out the thing they say sets them apart is almost always the exact same thing everyone else says sets them apart too. So you don't end up copying, you end up converging. And that's actually the most dangerous outcome because you never even see it happen. So let me show you exactly what this looks like. These are three different companies in the same coaching and leadership development. So take a look at what they're leading with. One says their business exists to help people learn, develop, and grow. Another leads with leader transformation for business impact. The third says its whole reason for being is transforming people and organizations. So if I covered up the logos, could you tell me which one to choose or why? There's nothing here that tells somebody why one is a right fit over the other. And this is what happens when nobody does the research. You don't end up standing apart. You end up sounding like the same company three different times. If any of this feels a little too familiar, that's exactly why I'm here every week. So go ahead and hit subscribe below for more of my content. And while you're there, just smash that like button too. It takes you 2 seconds and it means the world to me. On to the last objection, which is we've already done thorough competitor research. The research I typically see when someone says this is pretty surface level. It's looking at competitors' offers and pricing to get a sense of whether they are in the right ballpark for their industry. And while yes, that's important, it only scratches the surface of what you actually need for your positioning. So when that's all you've got, you end up with messaging that it sounds fine, but it doesn't actually move anybody toward working with you. The other problem is that this thorough research often only looked at direct competitors. Believe it or not, the other businesses offering similar services to yours aren't usually your biggest competition. You can believe it. I've done enough customer research to know that this is in fact true. Okay, so there are actually three other kinds of competitors you need to know about. The first are your indirect competitors. These are people who offer different services or solutions but solve the same problem. So for me, a positioning and messaging strategist, this might be a business coach who does that work as part of their process. If you're a sales coach, yours might be a revenue operations consultant. the same problem, but a completely different approach. And one indirect competitor that's become pretty much impossible to ignore for me and probably for most of you too is AI. People genuinely believe they can use AI tools to solve the problem your service solves. And even when we know that's not true for what we offer, we tend to underestimate how much our potential clients believe that it might be. So if your messaging isn't speaking to the beliefs your potential clients have around what AI can do for them, they don't know why they should choose you over a tool that feels cheaper and faster. So you don't have to call it out directly, but you do have to address it. And then there are the last two, and these are the ones we most often overlook or don't even think about, but arguably, they're the ones we need to consider the most. So the next competitor is status quo. This is, we know we have a problem, but we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. And yes, that's a competitor because it's easier. Nobody wants to choose the harder route. And then lastly, there's an action, which is, we'll get to it eventually. It's not always even a conscious choice, but it's a choice. And your messaging needs to help people understand why waiting until later is a bad move and why solving this now actually matters. So now you know the kinds of competitors you're up against in general. But what you have to do is figure out who your specific competitors are. Here are 3 easy ways to go about doing that. So for the first one, just ask. Whenever you're on a sales call or discovery call, find out what other options they're considering. And once people start working with you, ask them too. Say something like, what other solutions had you tried or were you thinking about trying before you hired us? Second one is get inside the mind of your buyer. Think about how they articulated the problem they came to you with. Think about what did they say they needed help with? How did they phrase it? What did they say they wanted solved? And this works even better if you have call transcripts that you can reference. Then search like they would. Pull up Google, YouTube, and LLM, wherever your clients are actually searching, and ask those same questions. And then the last one, well, if you can talk to people, use those first too. But for the last one, if you can't, use LLM as a starting point. You might type something like, I'm thinking about hiring a, and then insert whatever your role is. What other options might I consider? And then you can even specifically ask it to look for possible direct competitors, indirect competitors, what status quo or what inaction might look like. One big caveat here, though, these are assumptions. This is not an actual human. The best information you get will come from talking to people. All right, so once you've got your list of competitors, now it's time to start researching. So here's what I want you to do. Pull up their assets, their website, their social media, wherever they're showing up. And then here are 3 things that you can pay attention to. So the first one is note who their target audience is. Who are they speaking to? The second is what problems do they say they solve? And then the third is what benefits or outcomes are they promising? Now, these just start to scratch the surface, but they are a solid place to get started. So if you want me to go deeper on any of this, just drop a comment below and let me know specifically what you'd love to see next.